Well, hello, my loves, and welcome back to the Manifesting Millions podcast. Today is a funny, interesting, intriguing episode where we are going to be talking about the absurdity of money and the absurdity of money beliefs. I promise you, I am not high, I am not drunk, but this is going to be a very juicy episode. So let's get right on into it, shall we? Welcome to the Manifesting Millions podcast, where we talk about manifestation, money, and practical guidance to creating your dream reality. My name is Amy Van Meel, and I am an experienced coach and transformation guide, obsessed with helping you get out of your own way and create a life that blows your mind each day you wake up. My goal in this podcast is to share practical manifestation, self-awareness, and growth techniques in real talk conversations. So if you're ready to massively transform your reality, your finances, your relationships, and your overall enjoyment of life, you are in the right place. I am absolutely delighted that you're here with me today, babe. Let's get into it. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to the Manifesting Millions podcast. We have a riffing good episode coming up today. OMG, I am going notesless, and we are going to channel through some really good stuff today. So I was trying to think about what the heck am I going to talk about on the podcast today? What am I going to say? What am I actually going to sit down and record? Because I wanted to meet the check mark in my agenda, record podcast today. And so I was determined it was going to happen. Something that has been going through my mind the last little while. This is going to be a whole different episode later on, but the absurdity of life. And there's been this interesting space that I've been playing with of just kind of looking at how absurd all of it is. The absurdity that we have somehow aligned into a system that says we need to work 40 hours a week. The absurdity of how our bodies are made. I mean, our bodies are these crazy cool machines, but can we just be real for a second? What kind of crazy, ridiculous kind of thinking created our hands, right? I know I sound like I'm high, and I promise you that I'm not, although maybe that would help. But just kind of looking at the absurdity of it all. Now, I will say candidly that it's been a dark, heavy space. But I want to talk about it today as it relates to the absurdity of our money beliefs. And I wish that I had notes, and trusting very much that God Source Universe is just going to speak and communicate clearly through to me today, because this feels like where you and I need to touch on. But I'll be totally honest with you, I've no friggin' clue where today's episode is going to go, okay? So, trusting the words flowing out of my mouth. The absurdity of money and the absurdity of the things that we believe about money. When we start really, so at the heart of the work that I do, at the heart of the Wealthy as Fuck program, is the belief that each of us is intended to experience a life of financial overflow and a life that feels wealthy in all areas. Okay? So whatever wealth looks like and feels like for you, the heart of Wealthy as Fuck is really the intention that you get to have the fullest version of wealth for your life. And my work is simply to present to you ideas and insight and strategies and tools to shift what's in the way between where you are now and the life that you desire to have. And so Wealthy as Fuck is written in a very specific way in order to dismantle some of the absurdity that we have been surrounded with for not just our entire lives now, but like it's generationally deep within our experiences, and to begin to create freedom and openness and movement so that we can actually experience something different. That's actually the heart of the work. I was trying to think today, I was like, well, like maybe I frame it as like, what's the most absurd money belief that I have or have had? And it's like crickets coming through. There's nothing that is like specifically standing out. And there's also like a ton of things that I'm sure I could talk about. But I want to like play in the space of, how do I say this? Everything that we believe to be true is something that we just have decided, or that someone has decided for us. In most cases, it's something that someone has decided for us, and it happened before we had conscious choice, or it's so deeply ingrained in everything around us that we are unaware that this is something that we actually could choose to be different. When I try to think about this, and when I try to think about like an example, you know, if I were to sit down with you one-to-one and have a conversation, there are things like, I don't try to be a woman. I didn't decide at some point that I was going to be a woman. I just am. That's just my body. That's the physical expression of my genetic code. And also, like, it's just an amness. But even if I were to call that into question and say, but am I a woman? So that could open up a much bigger question of like, you know, what is at the root of it, at the heart of it. And that's where we might get into like, well, at the root, it's actually not so much that I'm this physical person, but I'm actually a soulful being, right? So like, and then our brains can get really bent. Trust me, I've been down that pathway before. And it's one thing for us to play in that space as it relates to like us within our physical body. There's this weird thing that happens when we try to play in that space when it comes to money and our resources. Hi, my loves. I wanted to interrupt the podcast really quick for just a quick little announcement for you. So we are in Money March. And one of the things that I really felt called to do for all of you this month is to host a weekly live discussion call about all things money. So every Thursday in the month of March at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard, I'll be hosting a completely free live discussion call. Bring all of the questions that you have about money, whether it's related to manifesting money, whether it's related to managing money, whether you're just like, Amy, why does this thing exist within money? Whatever it is, bring the questions to the live discussion calls. You just need to register to get the link so that I can send you the invite for the room. And to do that, the URL is in the show notes. I will send you the invite every day before we go live. Not every day in the month of March, I promise. So mark your calendars. Thursdays will be March 5th, March 12th, March 19th, and March 26th at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard, and we'll be sitting down together live. I'll be answering all of the questions that you have about money, and we will go from there. I hope to see you there. So money is a made-up thing, okay? Like that's lesson 1 inside Wealthy as Fuck. We talk about how money is this made-up thing, and it's been made up in different iterations over time. We're literally experiencing a new iteration of money today. Bitcoin is a whole new made-up thing that is a form of money. And money really is just a means of exchange. That's the whole reason it got created in the first place. Okay. Like it doesn't have any greater purpose than that it's just a means of exchange. But in our humanness and in the absurdity of life, we have turned it into this like whole thing that we now attribute a huge amount of value to, and we have unknowingly and mistakenly hooked our sense of worth to. I was thinking about this probably about 2 months ago. I moved my vision boards. They were hanging in my office and I wanted to put them somewhere else. They're not in their final place yet, but they're currently hanging in my bedroom. And I was sitting on the bed and I happened to glance over at one of the vision boards, and at the very top in big bold letters, it says, "I am worthy." And in that moment, I was like, what a ridiculous thing to say. Not because I'm not worthy. That's not it at all. But like this idea that we need to convince ourselves of our worthiness is absurd. Okay? And I understand that it's a mental framework. If you don't believe you are worthy, then you might go, but Amy, this is an affirmation that I need to work on because I don't believe that I am worthy. But here's the thing that stood out to me that day when I saw it, because I was like, it's so fucking ridiculous. My worthiness has never been in question. And this is true. So I grew up in the Catholic Church, and I disagree deeply with so much of what has been taught through organized religion over the years. And I, regardless of your faith and your beliefs, on my personal level, I disagree deeply with the repeated prayers of being this like shameful sinner that needs saving. And that belief system now stands in like sharp contrast with what we see in the world, where we see coaches and business experts and such all saying there's nobody coming to save you, right? Like you need to do it on your own. How do you marry those two things, where you have this belief that, you know, you're a sinner that needs to be saved by some external entity, and yet you live in a world that there isn't anybody coming to save you? Anyway, it's a whole different conversation that we could go on. But one of the things that is true, to my knowledge, of what I think all religions talk about is an inherent sense of worthiness. Sure, we are sinners, but we are still worthy of being saved, right? Like that's what I want to touch on. That it's not a question of whether or not we are worthy. The question is actually, and this was the thing that struck me that day sitting on my bed, was it's actually whether or not I feel worthy. Our worthiness has never been in question. And money, this absurd made-up thing that we created, that humans created as a means of exchange, we have twisted and turned and really bastardized into this example of like whether or not or how worthy we feel ourselves to be, which we could also say like what our sense of self-worth is. But what a ridiculous concept. Like I want you just to think about that for a second. And if I'm breaking your brain right now, good, because I think that we need to do some brain breaking around this kind of stuff. What a ridiculous concept that we have somehow become convinced our self-worth is tied to a made-up human construct that we call money. It's absurd. So I suppose, if there was one of the most absurd beliefs I've ever had, it's the belief that like the money that I have has a reflection on my worth as whatever, I guess a human or a person or a woman or I don't know, soul. Like it's just ridiculous. Okay. I want us to just realize that I'm rambling here a little bit. It's just, yeah, anyway, okay, we're going to tie that off. So the idea that we have just crazy, silly beliefs about money. And now here's the thing. This is the space that I've been playing with today. And I suppose this is where I want to focus us into as we finish this slightly meandering, not high, but sound like I'm high kind of podcast episode today, which I sincerely hope you've been enjoying and getting some value out of. So, in the absurdity that is life, we find ourselves constantly searching for meaning and constantly searching for what is the truth. But consider for a moment that anything and everything can be the truth, and it's just whatever we're willing to accept. I suspect, this is why there are people in the world who believe that the Holocaust never happened. The vast majority of us are just like, how can you possibly even say that? Like, there's fucking proof. We have historical records of it. There's right? All kinds of things. But at the end of the day, whatever we choose to believe to be true is a story that we just choose to believe to be true. It's the same reason that there are people who believe that the earth is flat. They have chosen that is the story that is true. And on the other side of it, those of us who believe that the earth is round also have chosen to believe that story. And it's very easy for us to say, yes, but Amy, we have evidence that points that story is true. But I could find you, this makes me think of the big fat Greek wedding. Give me a word, any word, and I will show you the root of that word is Greek. Anyway, anything that we believe, any story that we tell ourselves, we can come up with evidence that says that it's true. This is, I think, it's both the most exciting part of doing work on our money beliefs, and it's the most disheartening part of doing our money beliefs, because at one and the same time, it gives us absolute freedom to choose anything we want, but also this sense of, well, geez, so I've just been following this mistaken story that I've just been believing is true, and I still seem to keep believing that it's true, even though it's just absurd. So what's the moral of today's story? The moral of today's story is come join me inside Wealthy as Fuck when it opens in a couple of weeks so we can shift the absurd beliefs that you have to different absurd beliefs that will actually align with you creating the wealth that you want to experience in your life. That's the moral of today, okay? That's literally just what I would love to say. I think that the moral of today is for us to just have a moment to really reflect on the fact that life just is absurd. Everything about this experience, everything, if you've never believed in your life that life is absurd and you are currently existing in March 2026, I mean, come on, all you have to do is look out in the world and go, yeah, we must live in an absurd experience, because look what's happening in the world. It's so just ridiculous. It's a level of ridiculous we've never seen before. It's very easy to get down and to really feel the drag backwards on what is happening. And perhaps that's part of what has really started this unraveling for me internally of and starting to see just how absurd all of it really is. And that's it. That's all I'm going to say for today, because I feel like if I go on too much further, we're going to go in a direction that I don't want us to go into today. So let's alter the topic slightly. Today, the day this episode is getting released is March 11th. I will be skiing and kicking horse and hopefully doing awesome and very likely doing okay because I've never skied that mountain before. I will be pushing some serious boundaries as I experience a new hill, and I'm on terrain that, as I understand it, is much more challenging than anything I've skied before. So if you are listening to this, please send me all the love and luck in the world that it is a successful and enjoyable ski trip. Because boy, I'd sure like it to be. I'd sure like to come back and be like, OMG, here's the things that I experienced. However, in 2 weeks' time, I will be running my Drop the Veil live workshop. This is a 3-day workshop. It's about an hour every day. Some days are a little bit less, where we actually tackle 3 of the very common myths that most of us are holding when it comes to money. Day 3, for example, we tackle the myth of sacrifice, and I give you some really unique insights as to, what sacrifice actually is, and how believing and subscribing to this myth is actually keeping us disconnected from the wealth that we want to experience. So if you want to find out, like, what is that? Amy, tell me more. Then come join me inside the workshop. It's completely free. In order to access the workshop, you do have to register, because I send out I think it's a Zoom link. I might use a different platform this time around, but usually it's a Zoom link. So I send that link out to you via email. And then you also get access to replays for about a week. So if you can't join me live, which I know is often sometimes a challenge when it comes to workshops, then you can watch the replays as well. The URL to register and join me for the Drop the Veil workshop is amyvanmeel.com/drop the veil, all one word. It is in the show notes for you, so you don't have to try to figure out how to spell my name. You just have to click on it and then come and join me for the workshop. Like I said, it's completely free, and we're going to do some big shifting or as well, Wealthy as Fuck will be opening for enrollment later this month as well. And if you want to get on the wait list, I'm cooking up some really juicy bonuses, I think, for my wait list people, including like a pretty big discount. So if you've been curious about it and you want to explore coming into the Wealthy as Fuck universe with me, starting at the end of this month, then get yourself on the wait list by going to amyvanmeel.com/money. Again, URL is in the show notes for you. Get on the wait list. Okay. I would really love to hear how today's episode landed for you. So if you are on Instagram, come give me a follow, send me a DM, and tell me, like, what did you think about today's episode? Did you think that I'm completely off my rocker? Are you like, Amy, are you drunk? Are you high? Are you both? Like, what's been going on? Or if today like really opened something up for you, I would love to hear what you have to say. And of course, as always, if you can, I would love so much if you leave a review of the podcast, because that certainly helps us reach more people. Or you could also share it out with a friend of yours. And you could be like, there's this lady, she sounds like she's drunk, but it's kind of a fun episode, so go check it out. That would also be very cool. And with that, my loves, I very much hope to see you inside the Drop the Veil workshop. And I would love to see you join the Wealthy as Fuck waitlist. So go grab those URLs in the show notes, and I will see you next week. Bye for now.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you loved what you heard today, be sure to share it with me by leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform.
and help me reach more like-minded people who are ready to expand their life. If you haven't yet followed me on social media, find me on Instagram for extra love and inspiration by following at Amy Van Meel, or visit my website at amyvanmeel.com. I love you so much, babe, and I am damn proud of you. I am already excited to connect in the next episode. And in the meantime, believe in yourself with the confidence of a 5-year-old.